Welcome to Screen Junkies Universe. It is a very good day today. We are talking about puppets. We are talking about MoviePass is at the end. Tarantino's next. And Billy, our producer Billy, has seen one of the finest films in history. This is a beloved classic, and he has some serious questions for us about it. Dan Murrell is here.
Hello.
Ed Greer Wednesday, my favorite day,
Yay.
other than the days with the other people I love. Joe Starr.
Hello.
Hello. It's going to be a good day today. So, except for MoviePass, where it's not going to be a good day at all. They've been having a pretty rough week of it. So they have, this is via Bloomberg, MoviePass has filed an SEC yesterday that, okay, here's what's up. Parent company Helios and Matheson has $15.5 million in the bank. Now, for me, that's a good chunk of cheddar. But for a company that is spending $21 million per month on average, it's pretty scary. So they are not financially solvent at all, which is why they have had to make the SEC filing. The future does not look super bright for this company. Basically, as of April 30th, Helios and Matheson has, again, that $15.5 million in cash with $27.9 million, quote, on deposit with the company's merchant processors. The problem is that they're spending so much money and they keep making these moves, as we've been talking about, to reduce costs, to find ways to save costs, to switch the services again and again and again, which has been very confusing for their consumer base. Add to this certainly doesn't instill a lot of confidence in the consumer base. It definitely does not instill a lot of confidence in the stock market, where their stocks have been crashing. I mean, there's a lot more to this, and we'll have a link to the article below. But the basic gist of it is they are running out of money.
MoviePass has 2 months left.
They have 2 months left of solvency. If they don't get a big influx of cash investment funding, they're going to go under. And if you were an investment person, banker, human, lord,
my lord, the banking lord.
If I was a lord of the banking clan of Silicon Valley.
If you were a person with a kind of, or a company, a venture capitalist with the kind of access to this kind of capital, would you invest in this company? They have been acting crazy.
Well, I would find this guy Mike Movieman. You know, because he's really screwing up. This guy, Mike Movieman. Yeah. He's watching too many movies. He's scalping.
That's Dan Murrell. Well, not the scalping.
No.
Not the scalping.
Great, you just got my MoviePass canceled. They'll do it for literally anything now.
Well, of course they will.
Yeah.
Of course they will.
Did you take a picture of your
I
thumb?
did. I took pictures of all my ticket stubs this past weekend.
Retina
you only
scan
scalp
too.
live events.
Oh yeah, concerts and stuff.
Yeah,
that's my side business.
Until Concert Pass
Yeah.
happens, then
Yeah.
you're that's
I found
okay.
it StubHub.
Yeah, I mean, this is what they're saying. This is from the filing. Quote, if we are unable to obtain sufficient amounts of additional capital, we may be required to reduce the scope of our planned growth or otherwise alter our business model, objectives, and operations. I mean, shut down, right, Dan?
Or go back to 4 movies a month for, $19.95, or raise. They're going to have, unless they prove to somebody in the next 2 months that this too good to be true deal, which was always too good to be true and remains too good to be true, that they can somehow turn this into a viable business model, they will have to either, 1, go out of business, 2, raise their price significantly, or 3, keep their price the same and offer fewer movies, which they've kind of already started to do by eliminating repeat viewings, which I was reading in this report. They said, oh, that saved us 30% last week, which again goes to show that whole line about how this is just to see BS. They were running out of money and they needed to save money, and it was a cost cutting measure. And I hate when companies do that. Just say that.
Yeah. Well, I just think if you're
because it's going to come out, it's like they're trying to hide it. And
Yeah,
it looks
but
suspicious.
they are, because what happens when it comes out is that their stocks rapidly decline. They look less attractive to investors, and if you need money, the last thing you want is to look unattractive as an investment. But it is an unattractive investment. I mean, it was a model that I never understood how it would work.
Well, if I was a Silicon Valley lord,
a free range turkey leg.
Yeah, exactly.
Organic free range turkey leg.
With a big robe that's just ones and zeros. I mean, this is their bread and butter. None of these companies are financially solvent yet, and these guys just keep dumping money in them. So, I mean, if there's someone who is like, if there's a 6% chance that we can regrow MoviePass, someone will dump money into this thing.
I think they're good for one more round because people are just like there's so many people with money that don't have too much to do, and this does seem like
so many ideas.
this seems like the Rudy
for
of
you.
investments at this time. You know what I mean? Like but I don't know, man.
That package would also include the MoviePhone IP, I think, because they acquired MoviePhone. So that sort of idea they had of their own like user-based Rotten Tomatoes and stuff like that. I could see someone in Silicon Valley throwing these guys a bone.
Well, I think they could enhance the deal if they gave a special deal to like film critics or something like yourself. I think that would be interesting if there was a tier of people who could go see a bunch of movies and there were critics or whatever, but then regular people could only see 4, something like that.
We're actually
Regular
technically
people.
not allowed at all to participate in any kind of deal like that because, so when they're the people outside of the screenings at a movie theaters and they're like, oh, you want to go see a free movie? We can't go because we already have access much of the time to early screenings and things like that, and there's just like a conflict of interest. We're not allowed to do any of that, actually. Although with MoviePass, I'm not sure how that would work.
Yeah.
Maybe there would be an exception to that rule. I know I sound like I don't like them and you guys get mad at me. It's not that I don't like them. I really don't. I love the idea on paper. I would love to be...
It's just kind of fascinating watching
It's just
all this
kind of
happen.
fascinating and crazy and weird, and you're right, they probably will get money, but they're gonna, because they do have a package. But at a certain point, they're going to have to rework this model.
I would be shocked if by the end of the month MoviePass's business model is the same. As a customer, I am preparing to get an email from MoviePass saying, because I'm not an annual subscriber, I'm a monthly subscriber currently. I would not be surprised if I got an email this week that said, we're changing our business model. If you want to continue to do your unlimited plan, it is now going to be on your next billing cycle X dollars a month. If you want to stay at $9.95, it's $3. It's 3 movies a month now. Go to the website and select your plan because that's how it's. They can't make money. They hope that they can make money, and they hope that they can parlay all of this stuff, and like maybe they can in the long term, but right now they can't, and they have 2 months of money left unless someone else gives them money. Which, if they keep running things like they're running them now,
Which is
it would be
basically spend money, do a lot of crazy stuff,
Right.
profit.
right.
Is that the actual board?
People would be
headquarters?
stupid to invest in it right now because all it's done for the last 7 months is lose money. That's all that it's done. And make a lot of people get a great deal.
Well,
So,
did one of you guys say it's like that pizza app on Silicon Valley where the guys they didn't factor in the fact that you had to buy the whole pizza for full price and they were selling it for $1 less, so there's no way they can make money.
Right.
It's kind of like that.
well, and AMC,
Very much
It
exactly
is-
like that.
It is 100% exactly that thing,
AMC,
except worse.
AMC took a victory lap yesterday because they had an earnings call where they're like, yeah, MoviePass, the average person went to our theaters 2.75 times in April at $12 a ticket. So that means that they lost, they were just saying like, this is why they can't work. This is why, subscriber systems are good, but only if they make money. I mean, AMC's throwing the stats back in their faces. Something has got to change, and it's going to change. It's going to change soon, or they're just going to simply go out of business, which I don't know if that's an option.
If you want to hear just crazy shade thrown, I cannot recommend shareholder calls enough. Most companies make them public, and you can listen to them or at least find like transcripts of them, because that's all they are, is like the CEO of AMC being like, these assholes. And just they're great. They're
Well,
great.
they've been having a lot of problems. They're the sharks and the jets right now, AMC and MoviePass, and you get it, right? Because one thing threatens the other's business model over time, right? Like if your consumer base is more and more used to these really low prices, they're not going to want to pay the prices you want to charge.
And if MoviePass goes to a lower option as far as like $10 or whatever for 4 movies, now all of a sudden they have competition. There's another one that I've been hearing a lot about called Cinemia, I think it's called, that offers some perks that MoviePass doesn't offer. So if you go away from the too good to be true deals, Now all of a sudden, not only are you not offering as much value, you have competitors. Not to mention, if you don't think that every major theater chain in this country right now is investigating how they can do their own version of MoviePass and make money, they'd be crazy not to.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is very much like the Disney streaming app and the Fox app and this app.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's very much that way. Yeah.
So, this is I think round one, and we'll see where it goes from here. But I don't see a viable way that MoviePass can continue under its current business model.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been investigating all of those revenue streams, and somebody, and again, like the model, it looks to be that they're designing is we acquire and/or invest in a film, we then get it distributed by a studio, we charge the studio a marketing cost, then we sell that film to our customer base via our marketing, and that's plus they have the data, right? They have the data to sell.
Payola marketing, see?
Well, no, I mean, but the data is still incredibly valuable. It really is. However, they need a longer period of time in order to gather that. I mean, you got to follow that Cambridge Analytica. Start telling me what kind of movie queen I am test, and that's how you're gonna get your data.
Not wrong.
But that's going to
play
take time.
Farmville with
So if an investment, if someone comes in to invest, I bet they're placing those bets. But the model's going to change pretty quickly. It's not going to be this dream 3-card Monty business anymore. I'm in New York. I never trusted it. I didn't trust it because it was like that suitcase full of money on the street scam. You know what I mean? Hey, you! I found a suitcase full
But
of
they
money.
took all the risk. That's the thing. It was the 3-card money suitcase on the street scam.
Yeah.
Except it's like if you played 3-card money and they gave you the $20, your
Yeah,
$20 ahead of time, and they're like, you get to keep this no matter if you find it or not. It's like it was a deal that's too good to be true. But they took all the risk.
scam.
It's like for me, I'm like, what's the downside?
That sounds like an awesome scam.
Exactly. Like that's the thing. Is like they in a way were gambling with themselves because I didn't give up anything other
Yeah.
than
It reminded me of the
know,
old Dana Carvey show sketch where him and Steve Carell go
Yeah.
through the drive-through to do pranks,
Yeah.
and they like pay for their food and then drive off laughing before they
just
get
laughing.
their food.
Yeah, maniacally.
They prepay for the
true.
gas and they drive without pumping the gas, and they're like, "We got him!
We got him.
You see their face?
Next month, all MoviePass customers will be required to also participate in Ancestry and Me and send in a piece of your
Yes.
DNA.
swab.
100%.
A swab.
They're definitely, and the funny thing is, we talked about it before, but it bears repeating. It's almost like they were betting on it not to work on some level in regards to it not actually influencing people to go to the movies more, so they would stay their ass at home and to keep paying this.
They were counting on
subscription
us
fee.
to be lazy.
Exactly.
They were counting on us to
And
be lazy.
we were too
and then you
obsessed with
hadn't
free
met
stuff.
Dan.
Yeah.
Well,
to be lazy. It beat our laziness. Our frugality beat our laziness for once. And now they're screwed.
Which doesn't that really
Or-
make this a wonderful American story?
it does. It really does. They
got us up our duffs.
Americans to not be lazy. Just offer them
They got
free
us.
stuff.
They got us to sit down somewhere else besides the house. That's an American, exercise invention.
Well, that's the lesson that we can take away from this. We are more cheap than lazy as a nation. There's your data analysis. Do with that what you will.
By the way, if they change the plan, it's not like I'm going to be mad because even if they go to 3
got
movies
your
a month for
money's worth.
first of all, I got like a year's worth of money's worth from this thing. Secondly, even if it's like 3 movies a month for $10, like I'm still making money.
Yeah.
Like that's the other thing is like even if they go to 3 or 4 movies a month
Yep.
for $10, they're still losing
It's
money.
$14 a ticket.
Because
in
they
LA.
lose money on me if I buy 1 ticket.
Right.
They've lost like $6 on me for the month, and everything else is just lost, compounding that. So even if they downgrade their plan, I think they're still going to need some solutions because that might slow the bleeding, but maybe not because the average. I would want to know from them their own internal data. How many movies a month does the average MoviePass user go see?
It's broken data though, because again, to your point, you wouldn't necessarily be going to those. It doesn't really give me a portrait of Dan, and it doesn't give me a portrait of Dan's behavior. It gives me a portrait of Dan when shit's free for Dan. You know what I mean? Like it's not accurate data because people aren't behaving the way that they would if it wasn't.
There are a lot of movies
freebie.
I wouldn't pay for or go see, but
well, it's weird.
free?
It's,
Okay.
it's weird when a company is dying because it's almost like that guy in the zombie movie that gets bit in the first reel and he just sort of hides his arm. You know, he's like, I'm not freaking out. You know, it's cold in here. You know what I mean? As he's gonna spaz out and start biting everybody.
Yeah.
You know, that's what this company is.
It's sweating against a tree trunk right now. This is the status of where we are. It's not in good shape.
Carolyn, I'm so sorry.
I want some graph of all of the analogies we have made for MoviePass today.
I want that supercut. I definitely want that supercut.
What is MoviePass? And that's their commercial. It's sweating against a tree. It's that zombie with his hand bit. It is going to be interesting to see how this all unfolds. I couldn't tell initially if the plan was pure insanity and there was no plan, it was just sort of throwing things at the wall, or if there really was a long-term master plan in the works with them, and the only thing that we could suss out was creating that dominance model of kind of acquiring, distributing, marketing, and being paid at every single, and then also they do have a streaming service. They do have the ticket sales. They were able to, with the model with the ticket sales, potentially have reviewers who weren't really reviewers, customer reviewers, boost the reviews of their movies that they had invested in. So who knows? I think it would take them 5 years for that to really play out. And in this space where streaming is so dominant, it's the thing that people are spending the most of their money on. It doesn't matter.
Well, it's funny that this person, the CEO,
Unless they just want our DNA and they want to make real life decoys.
right? I mean, this person is basically like if LeBron goes to the team that didn't beat him, or something, you know what I mean? It's like okay, they won, Netflix won, and you leave them to go start a company that's going to get beat by Netflix. It's weird.
It's weird.
You know,
Yeah.
you live by the sword, die by the sword, or whatever.
I mean, it achieved what their stated goal was, which was to get more people to go to the movies. The problem is that it worked too well. Their product was too good, and I'm sure their plans, as all plans are, were based. But it seems like their plans were based off of very highly projected best case scenarios.
Yeah, it's very Enron. Like this is money that we're gonna make next year, so we're gonna gamble it now.
I have the only insights I
your
have left are
retirement money.
Shark Tank jokes that I think I've already made about MoviePass. So
All right. Well, with that in mind, a movie that I know that I'm going to be seeing, whether it's via MoviePass or not, is Jordan Peele's next movie, which he has announced via his Twitter feed on Tuesday. The new film is titled Us. It will be in theaters in March of 2019. There is also a poster that we might have. We do not have that poster. JT, how are the sports scores?
Yeah.
Having a tech issue.
Go
Okay.
Celtics!
Thoughts, feelings? Did you see it?
I heard about it a lot, like a lot of people did. I just think it's really enjoyable that on the strength of one really huge moneymaker and a cultural touchstone that now him announcing a movie is like news.
yeah,
That's real cute.
There we go.
Oh yeah, there we go.
hey,
That's really cool because it's kind of the benchmark of a major filmmaker. Like we're going to talk about Quentin Tarantino later. Whenever you make something, it's news. I love the fact that Jordan Peele has now joined that fraternity. I find that very heartening.
So, will you be on board with it? Like, I was excited when the first movie was announced because I was just already a fan of his, and I knew he was a huge horror fan, and I wanted to see what he was going to do with it. I felt like he was responsible. He's such a movie fan too. You know, he always would have all of these references, and they're so quick. But yeah, the world understands the brilliance.
It
of
also
Jordan Peele.
bodes well for a type of movie that doesn't cost $1 billion. Like the fact that he made such a dent with Blumhouse, and it was such an artistic Blumhouse movie because for every 10 Blumhouse movies, there's one actual art film out of them, and I just love the fact that level, if you know what I'm saying, of movie, that level of budget is now kind of in vogue because they see, the Blumhouse model plus an artist equals cha-ching.
And creativity. Are you worried about a sophomore slump at all?
no, I mean, look, I would have seen if my MoviePass plan had allowed it. I would have seen. Get Out a third time if I could have. I'm excited about this. Whether it's a direct continuation or like a spiritual sequel or whatever. I'm super into this.
And if they get, they reported Winston Duke, Lupita Nyong'o, Elizabeth Moss were the 3 cast members in talks,
really
negotiations right now.
cast.
Which that's a great
That's
cast.
amazing.
If they can lock those 3 in, and that's just 3. Supposedly it's about 2 couples, which sure, yeah, I'm on board. I like that he's kind of said like this is kind of my suburbia series.
Yeah.
So I just like.
Well, this banal horror
situation.
I like that.
I like
the
that.
horror and the banal. It's much like what Stephen King used to truck in. You know what I mean? Like in the books, at least.
That would have made an alarmingly good segue, but a bit too soon. We're going to get to some Stephen King
Oh, I didn't.
in just
really?
a little bit. Yeah, we are.
No, I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah, that's a whole thing that's going to happen.
All right.
But first, we're going to talk about
yeah.
casting news for Tarantino, his new movie. This is shaping up, speaking of like quite a cast. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he's in talks with Burt Reynolds, you guys, to play George Spahn. I'm Burt Reynolds. Am I the only one? Okay.
No, hey, Boogie Nights is literally my favorite movie.
I
and
loved his cameo in The Longest Yard remake. I thought it was a really good speech.
He is also in talks with Tim Roth, Kurt Russell, and Michael Madsen to play smaller roles in the films. Margot Robbie has been officially confirmed to join Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, reactions. I know some people are like not happy that we're excited about a Tarantino movie right now and feel like that's uncomfortable after everything that happened around Uma Thurman and so forth like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that story. I know the story as told by both of them. I know what she said and what he said. From what she has said, it seems like they, on a personal level, have worked through it, which I think is positive. But it does speak to one of the many different kinds of changes that are happening right now that need to happen, which is, and I think I was reading a little bit at the end of the Jeffrey Tambor thing, which is, of all the facets of things that need to change, one of them is this idea that an atmosphere on set where anything goes. If it's a project that requires this, then it's whatever. Then you have to do it. Then you have to allow this because that's what's there
Right.
have to be limits.
Quentin
and boundaries.
gets to spit on you.
Yeah, if Quentin gets to spit on you, it doesn't matter for the shot. If this looks good,
Right.
we're gonna do it. And then with Transparent, a lot of his side of the story, and who knows, was that just like this was the atmosphere on the set, that it was a very permissive thing. I think that's part of this whole thing is like you have to look at this and say like there are boundaries to what can happen and should happen on sets because they are workplaces and not everyone is attuned to that thing just because a few people might be. So there's still some things that I hope the reporting on what happened there continues because I think it's a safety issue. I think that there's a artistic issue. But I'm not as on the fence about Tarantino specifically, only because, again, from what it sounds like, he and Uma Thurman have settled it between them, and I think it's a lot more settled, it seems, on a personal level. That doesn't mean that, I still think that there's some things that need to be addressed, but, I don't know. It's a very complicated, complex time right now.
Are you guys excited about the film? Overall, curious?
I was more on the fence about getting. Obviously, that opened up a can of worms. But even before I knew about any of that, I really did not like Hateful Eight. Kind of. I think you and I are on polar opposites on this one. But I did not like that movie. So I don't know. He's got to make this one up to me. We went Inglourious Bastards and Django, which I really, really enjoyed, and then Hateful Eight was just for me. So, yeah.
Hateful Eight, is it a fart?
Is it a fart?
That was the noise.
Is unless that's what you think of stage plays, that probably should be stage plays instead of movies.
Yes.
If that's what you think of that, then yes, it is a fart. But I personally think that I'm looking forward to
A stage play where he cheats. We can talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I think I'd love for Quentin Tarantino to take on more adaptations because for my money, and yes, I'm a dumb old man, but I really enjoy Jackie Brown. Now with the span of time and the history that you've been able to see it, it's a beautiful film. It's real in the best sense, and it still has those touchstones and cultural, like, callbacks and things of this nature. It's still sort of derivative in its styling, but it's a real hangout movie with real characters. And his dialogue was a bit restrained to go with Elmore Leonard's voice, I feel. Yeah. And that perfect synthesis made a great movie. So I really would love for this to be to see this as more of an adaptation, and to see it as more of a, like, Quentin Tarantino does true crime. You know
I don't
what I mean?
think it's going to be. It's interesting because on The Hateful Eight, I really enjoyed The Hateful Eight. I did think it was a very strange movie to extol the virtues of film upon and make a big deal out of it, because it was very much like a stage play. But
70 millimeter stage play.
A 70 millimeter stage play in one room.
Come see the beauty of this room.
Made very little sense to me, but okay, Quentin. Other than that, though, it sounds like this movie is not so much true crime, but the world that surrounded that crime of Hollywood.
I think that counts.
And maybe there's a version of it that kind of, like Inglourious Bastards, plays with the history. That it's more of a fantasy version.
I'm just waiting
history.
for the 28-second shot of Sharon Tate's feet. That is definitely going to happen.
There, yeah.
It's definitely going to
Well,
happen.
that's something that I'm going to go into this looking at is, as a filmmaker, not just in the current climate, but just as a filmmaker, how is he going to grow it all? Has anything that's happened in the last few, because I think that there are definitely some things in his films in the past that go beyond artistic license, to the point where I know I go back and look at some of them, even in films that I love, and I'm going like, I don't think you'd do that today. So I think part of it is I also want to see, like, I just like to see him grow. That's why Inglourious Bastards was and still remains my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. I thought that it was just so different and a new style and a new angle and so many different flavors that I hadn't seen from him before. It just felt so fresh. I love that movie so much, and I actually love all of his movies since Inglourious Bastards, because it seemed like his phase 2. But I also think, like, it might be time to enter phase 3. So that's where I'm going to kind of come in. It's just like, is this him just kind of coasting a little bit, or is he actually going to challenge himself and now say, I want to bring a new dimension to this, to what I do?
I think the willingness to take on a real story, even if he does take liberties, I think that does denote something of a growth and something of him staying in phase 2, as you said.
It'll be interesting. Again, like, I don't presume that we're going to see the actual story, because maybe he's going to play with it in the same way. A filmmaker that told and helped to tell great stories has passed away, Anby Coates. She is a pioneer. This is via the LA Times. She's a British film editor who earned an Academy Award for her work on 1962's Lawrence of Arabia. She was nominated 4 more times for films such as Beckett, The Elephant Man. Wow, that is such a good movie. Out of Sight. She was 92 years old, so she lived a long life, and God, she helped to make some great movies. I'm going to make a confession, and then I'm going to call up Mr. Billy the Business. We all have movies that are classic films, that are beloved films, that for whatever reason slipped on by us, and mine, embarrassingly, is Lawrence of Arabia. I haven't seen it. I'm waiting to see it on the big screen properly for the first time, because I live in LA. That's going to happen.
You mean a movie that's worth shooting in 70 millimeter?
Yeah, that's actually worth doing that and seeing projected in 70 millimeter. I'm very much looking forward to that. But a movie that Billy had never seen, that he saw for the first time last night, was The Shining, and he has some questions for us, you guys. Billy, come up. Let's unpack what is happening
want a chair?
with Jack Nicholson
Tag out?
No, this is
in The Shining.
Here's Billy.
Some Shining. So
your face is in between us.
I know. Here's Johnny. I actively hate horror movies. Like, ask my wife. The time she made me watch The Exorcist, she still laughs, because I was like, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. It was the most traumatizing night of my life. But funnily enough, after seeing Ready Player One, I was like, I really should see The Shining, because this does kind of...
Shinning.
The
This
Shining.
is not The Simpsons. We can say The Shining.
I just spent half of this chat defending JTE, and now it's just all gone to shit.
It's all gone to shin.
It's all gone to shit.
We
Watch
love
The Shining.
you, JT.
It was very good. I just have a lot of questions. I'm very confused. So,
Okay.
At the end of the spoilers, I guess, for The Shining.
Yeah,
They've
all seen it.
movie
Yeah.
spoiler.
So at the end of the movie, he's in the photo from 1921. So is he like absorbed into the hotel? Like, I was very confused by.
I'll try to field this.
Okay.
Stephen King, famously, not a fan of this adaptation, mainly because it jettisoned a lot of his work. I think for the way that I've always interpreted it is there is a huge through line in the book where one of the reasons that Jack Torrance gets so obsessed with the hotel, and one of the reasons the hotel kind of possesses him, is he becomes he completely throws himself into research about the hotel's history. And a lot of the book is about the history of the hotel itself. And so in a way, in the book, he kind of becomes the embodiment of this history, this horrible, because it's a hotel, horrible things have happened. He becomes like the embodiment of all of these horrible things that have happened over the years in this Overlook Hotel. So I've always felt like that was kind of a nod to the fact that so many terrible things have happened in this hotel that this experience has sort of absorbed him into that, and he's just become part of whatever presence inhabits that place physically. He's become part of the tapestry of that hotel. That's how I always interpret it.
And one of this is what I presented to Billy as an option this morning, besides just the idea that there's some that may interpret that he is a reincarnation and he's seeing what he wants to see, and that like whether you're a spirit that has been existing for a period of time, whether you look different or not, is irrelevant, but that's his acceptance of that he's always been a part of this thing. Or third metaphor is that wasn't really metaphor. He goes to this place because, like a lot of us, he tells himself that if it weren't for the burdens of my responsibilities, if it weren't for the burdens of work, of my family, of quiet, of the city, of whatever it is, of daily life, I would be X, Y, and Z. I would write the great American novel. But what he comes to discover, like most of us, is if you were going to be X, Y, and Z, you would just be that. There is no excuse. There is no time. There is no perfect way that you're going to be that thing. You would either be that thing or not. And if you're not, you're not. And so he discovers that he has no core identity. He has no truth to tell. He has no story to tell. He is nothing. He is empty vessel that is waiting to be filled by the evil of this hotel because his hubris has driven him there, and it literally makes him insane. And so the only thing that he has is to identify with is the hotel. So he does, in fact, get absorbed into it because he has nothing else to give and nothing else to receive.
Or it's about how the moon landing was faked.
Yes.
And,
Oh, God.
and we know that because Kubrick filmed the moon landing. Google it.
Billy, tonight or whenever you have time, watch Room 237.
I was about to say that. Yep.
It's a documentary about people who have Shining conspiracy theories, and they all have a different theory about what the movie's really about. One of them is about faking the moon landing. One of them is that it's an apology
ours are probably
or
pretty-
an
mine's
expose
done.
on the treatment of Native Americans throughout the history
Right.
of the United States. It is fascinating, just like the way that people take you through it, and it doesn't sneer at them. It literally just like sits these people down and says like, explain to me, and it's like you can, the way that it does it, you can see even though some of it is insane, you can see like why. It's just about obsession.
Right.
It's about looking for meaning in meaningless things, and so it is the perfect night 3 of my film festival that no one would go to is The Shining and Room 237
I
back
would
to
go
back.
to that.
Back to back.
I would go to that.
I
Watch
feel
that
like
and
after
watch
you-
that documentary if you love The Shining.
Wait,
After
isn't
you-
looking for meaning in meaningless things an
Also,
obsession to the
yeah.
point of insanity also The Shining?
But I feel
Yeah.
like
Oh my
you
God.
need some sort of companion piece after you watch The Shining, because it just like ended, and I was like, I'm not okay. I need someone to talk to me about things. Like, okay, wait. The other question I had was, Grady kills his family at the hotel. They tell him that at the beginning, but then he meets Grady, but it's not the same Grady. It's a different, because they have different.
Well, I feel like that again. He has been absorbed into the hotel, so it's it's Grady's body, but he has inhabited this role.
But
again.
it's like they're Grady's. The first names are different, and it's like 1920s Grady. But was the Grady that killed his family later? I was very confused.
Yeah, I think again, it's like you kind of get part of you remains, but the other part of you is not
I
yourself.
also now want to watch The Shining again.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
It's a great movie.
I also was like, this isn't really a question, but like the whole time I was like, is this kid possessed by a demon? This Tony thing, and then like it kind of like helps him at the end because it's like murder, like get the F out of here, he's coming. I thought like somehow this kid was gonna turn out to be like a psychopath too. I don't know, just an observation.
Red rum.
Yeah.
That kid is creepy as hell. Also, I was reading IMDb trivia, and the kid didn't know he was shooting a horror movie.
Yeah.
How do you not know
hid it
what
from
you're
him.
doing?
Yeah.
But how? Like, he's walking around with a knife and saying red rum and crazy stuff.
Yeah, you see him.
They reverse Lucased it or Spielberged it, and he's holding a walkie-talkie.
Red rum, come in.
Tony's his like inner voice. It's just a name for his inner wisdom.
That can also, depending on how like
Or a
king-centric
demon.
you are,
Yeah.
can be very confusing because King is the king of also backdoor piloting his other projects because like the shining power pops up like throughout his books. So like taken on its own, it's almost just sort of a weird addition to this movie that's about something very like specific, but like taken as a piece of Stephen King as a whole, you're like, oh, that pops up here and here and here.
Well,
Okay, I got
and
it.
in the novel, his name is Daniel Anthony Torrance. So
Tony
Tony
is like
was like his own kind of consciousness from the future. The TV movie took it way too literally. Stupid. But it was like
instinct you get.
himself kind of guiding himself.
Yeah.
Like he was kind of his own guide, but it manifested as Tony, who was, his imaginary friend.
But
But again,
everybody
this is
has
something
it.
that everyone has it. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is something that, was Kubrick made a Kubrick movie out of the Stephen King book, which is like I don't even really regard them at all. I love the book and I love the movie, and I love them in two different ways because they're two completely separate works. I mean, it's like that is a great Kubrick movie and that's a great Stephen King book, but if you judge one of those against the other one, they don't mesh, which is
Yeah.
why Stephen King hates it so much because it's not his book at all. Really.
It's very Alan
like-
Moore about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he's just got the heightened ability. It's like if you were just like a weird piano or math prodigy, but
Right.
we all have that instinct. You hear that voice sometimes that's like, oh, don't go down that road for whatever reason.
I just really don't understand why. Okay, I'm gonna get mail for this one.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I'm gonna get added in the comments, but
I like that you said male though.
yeah. Well,
I'm gonna write a letter.
They got a Pony Express. They're gonna send me a letter from my beloved. But I kind of don't enjoy the fact that in all of Stephen King's stuff, he'll give magical powers to some black person, but they'll never be able to use it to save themselves
Nope.
or do anything cool. They're just there to tell some white person, "Hey man, it's dangerous." Axe to the chest.
I mean, they spent so much time showing that guy like being like something's wrong, coming back, and then 10 seconds he's like, "Hello," boom,
Well, that's
Right.
Kubrick.
Done.
That's
Well, yeah,
Kubrick.
and
That's
that's
Stephen King.
Kubrick's cold and unsentimentality.
Yeah.
So I don't think that part was racially motivated, but I do believe it. Like it's like, come on, man, you can't use your shine to shine off these blades. I don't. John Coffey. Oh, I'm a superhuman. I'm a giant superhuman in jail, and I can make people piss better. It's like, what, dude? Get out of jail. Magic your ass out of jail. This is so stupid. So yeah, I'm gonna get mail. Oh, he played the Wraith card. No. So come on, man, that's nuts.
Wow, if they're taking the time to write a letter.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a
A
firebrand.
telegram
Yeah.
to you. I will say, 'cause we do have a lot of SJ like fans that whenever a horror movie comes out, especially one that we all talk about, like It or something, they're like, is it too scary? Is it, because we have a lot of fans that are like me, I just actively avoid horror. I think you can handle The Shining. This is one that I'm like, there's a sense of dread to it.
It's
It is
a
very-
thriller more
Exactly.
than a horror
Yeah.
movie to
so
me.
like
Yeah.
if you're on the fence, especially
It's
because
creepy.
like I said, after seeing Ready Player One, I was like, I really want to see this movie. Like, you can handle it. I promise you can handle it. This is one that I'd be like, you're okay, because I think It was about my threshold of like, that's about as much as I can take.
It's scary.
It is scary.
That was
Yeah.
scary,
The
right?
Shining
That
is
was-
it's disturbing in a different
Yeah.
way than
Right.
an
Ugh,
average movie.
Pennywise.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, The Shining has that imagery that'll just stay with you. The little girls.
Yeah,
guy in
the
the
Shining.
dog
Truth about NASA.
The Shining tends to torture you with your own mind,
Yes.
which is what a lot of the great horror movies do, and I think and thrillers, and so I think that's it has a special place in that respect.
Yeah, and
You
a
know?
lot of it's really just about using the imagery and the escalating. We talked about this earlier. You asked about the man in the suit.
Yep, the bear who's giving a BJ to the other dude.
Sure,
I think that's a dog.
Is it?
I think it is a dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is another very deep cut reference to the book where they talk about this guy who was into a lot of crazy stuff, and one of them was that there was a guy in a dog suit that he would use as his
His
slave, his
Sex-
sex,
It's
his
like
sex
Gimp.
person. Yeah.
Wake up the Gimp.
Sex-
Put on the dog suit.
Back to Tarantino.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. It comes full circle.
They would
Yeah,
have
that was
these,
a moment where I was like, wait, did I miss it? What's happening? Because she's just running through the place and just starts seeing
There's
crazy
a there's a
things.
cut scene where like Danny is getting a chainsaw and trying it out, and then getting a samurai sword, but then they cut that out. It's another Tarantino reference. Sorry. You know what, Bruce Willis is? Never mind.
Yeah,
forget
no,
it.
up on the wall.
Yeah,
It is
exactly.
another nod
A
to
hammer.
NASA.
Yes, I follow.
All right, I think more Shining.
No, it's so dumb to be like, I recommend this movie from 30 years ago. That's a classic, but I recommend this movie from 30 years ago.
Hey, but as
That's a
Dan,
classic.
as Dan
no,
said, you
it's-
recommended also via Dan a classic double feature, Shining and Room
No,
237.
I definitely.
Yeah.
Is that on Netflix or?
It
I
used to
mean,
be.
It was for a
Yeah,
long time.
I don't know if it is anymore, but it's definitely, you can probably get it on Prime, or you can get a
if we talk
disc in the
about it
mail
on
maybe.
this show, I'll just buy it and expense it to them.
Great.
There you go.
Oh,
Solved.
Problem
Grifter.
solved.
Oh,
That's
thought-
how you do it.
I
Thank
thought
you, Billy
Grifter was in the
Business.
Wildstorm universe.
Can I say one more thing about Ann V. Coates? Because I looked her up this morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not only did she, I'm so sad that I hope that there's like a wealth of interviews with her, because I looked up other movies that she edited this morning when I saw that she passed away. Here's some other ones. She did 50 Shades of Grey. She did Congo. She did Masters of the Universe. She did What About Bob? Like, she had the most eclectic,
That's awesome.
varied career of like
Hell.
any editor that I've ever seen, and I wish I could ask her about what's it like to do both
Go from one
Lawrence
to
of
the
Arabia
other.
and Masters of the Universe.
One thing I'd like to say is, and it goes back to Tarantino, I forgot her name. She's a brilliant editor, and she worked on all the Tarantino stuff until she like died, unfortunately, in like a Kenyan accident. And his movies haven't been the same since she died.
Sally Minky. I believe
Sally
is her name,
Minky,
yeah.
boom. And I think there's I don't want to sound reverse sexist or something, but like there's this attitude, I think Pauline Kael wrote about it, where men are very male in regards to how we direct.
By the
and we
way,
just shoot.
nice Pauline Kael pull.
Oh,
Tell
yeah,
the
yeah.
people who she is. Really,
Oh,
I'm trying to
Pauline
meet her
Kael
person.
is
Yeah.
Pauline Kael is a huge movie reviewer. She influenced everybody from Paul Schrader to the guys at EW and all this kind of stuff. But anyway, the bottom line is, and Roger Ebert and all those guys. Anyway, she said that males tend to like shoot film just jizz all over the place, just a bunch of film, and it takes a woman to go, okay, this goes here, and this goes here, and this goes here, and this goes here, because it's an organizational thing, and it's being able to work on multiple tracks, especially when they used to edit with like a razor blade and some film in a corner somewhere, you know what I mean? Yeah. In an unventilated office while
That's why
everybody's
A New
smoking
Hope wasn't a
cigarettes.
mess.
Exactly. So I'm just saying, people need to give it up to people like Sally Menke and people like Ann Coates for wrangling the giant vision of all these male directors and being able to work with so many different people, like Dan said. It's a real skill.
Yeah, I am having a memory blank out right now, so you guys have to help me out. Thelma
Schoonmaker.
And
Schoonmaker. Yeah, say it's just.
And she worked with Spielberg a lot, right?
And if you do,
Scorsese.
Scorsese, yeah.
I learned this from reading Alicia Malone's book, which is amazing, Backwards in the Heels. If
Reading
you
list.
go back to the advent of Hollywood, editing traditionally at the beginning was given to largely women because it was considered, almost clerical. Like, we shot it, just put it together. And so there are so many women, even at the dawn of film, that were in charge of assembling these things that kind of helped shape the art form. So
There were a lot of female directors too
Yeah.
before the studio system,
Yes, there
and it came all about. That's Money. Okay.
Making it
Things
rain.
that we have for you to watch today are honest trailers and honest trailer commentaries. Watch those things, then go watch Dan's double feature. Come back and talk to us about it in the comments below. Let us know, what's your big movie miss? What have you not watched? Maybe we can start a movie book club every once in a while around here. That would be fun.
Be a good
I
time.
would enjoy it. Let us do this thing. Ed, where are you? Where can they find you? Where can they enjoy you?
You can find me at Ed Greer Destroys on Twitter and Instagram. I've put up a new piece of art on Instagram. It could use some likes.
I will like it.
Yeah, Ed Greer Destroys on all social media. And my podcast, Nerd Goat Podcast.
Nerd Goat, which I've never been invited to, but whatever.
Oh,
Joe
jeez.
Starr, you're here all the time. Dan Murrell, you're here all the
neither,
time.
I love the idea of starting a movie club.
Let's do it. Fridays. Friday
Let's do
Movie
it.
Club.
That's a great idea.
We're gonna do it.
I would love to
should do that.
participate
We
in
should
that.
do it.
When I say something live on the internet, it means it is set in stone.
All right, well, I'm officially booking you for Nerd Goat. Send me your avails. And you too.
Okay.
And you too. Boom. It's on the internet. Can't take it back.
That's how you get onto podcasts. You just shame people publicly into inviting you. That's how it's done.
That's how I got this job.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us today. We will be back again tomorrow. Lots of things to do and wonder about and ponder about. That's my advice to us.